In our headlines on this Monday afternoon, January 22nd, here on the Korean Peninsula. Israel's Prime Minister says a complete halt in hostilities against Hamas in Gaza is not an option, given the likelihood of another October 7th-like atrocity by the Palestinian militant group in the foreseeable future. Over in the U.S., Republican candidate Ron DeSantis drops out of the campaign for his party's presidential nomination and declares support for former President Donald Trump, who now faces former ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley for the Republican ticket. Here on the local front, the mercury plunges well below 0 degrees Celsius, and thus authorities call for public caution while outdoors this week, as the cold spell is forecast to remain in place until early Friday. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has refused Hamas's calls for a complete cessation of Israel's counteroffensive in return for the release of remaining hostages. Our Kim Jong-sil tells us why.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his country will not agree to Hamas demands for a ceasefire.
In exchange for the release of our hostages, Hamas demands the end of the war, the withdrawal of our forces from Gaza. If we agree to this, our warriors fell in vain, and the next October 7th will only be a matter of time.
On October 7th last year, around 3,000 Hamas forces stormed across the fences from Gaza into southern Israel, killing at least 1,200 people, including Israelis and foreign nationals, and taking 240 others as hostages. Israel drafted a record 300,000 troops in its response and has been attacking Hamas in Gaza for 107 days now. The Hamas-run health ministry says more than 25,000 people have been killed in Gaza in that time. The Israeli Prime Minister also reiterated his opposition to an independent Palestinian state, saying Gaza must be under the full security control of Israel, possibly responding to the U.S. response after Friday's phone conversation with Biden.
President Biden has made clear his strong conviction that a two-state solution is still the right path ahead, and we're going to continue to make that case.
The Wall Street Journal reported on Sunday that the U.S., Egypt, and Qatar are pushing Israel and Hamas to join a phased diplomatic process. Citing diplomats involved in mediation, the three-step process reportedly includes the releasing of hostages, withdrawal of Israeli forces, and finally ending the war in Gaza. Meanwhile, Hamas media office released a statement on Sunday saying that there were, quote, faults in the October 7 attack. But the statement also said the attack was, quote, to confront all Israeli conspiracies against the Palestinian people. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Over in Ukraine, strikes on Sunday targeting the Russian-controlled city of Donetsk have killed at least 25 people. Now, city officials there say Ukrainian forces fired artillery shells on shops and a market, adding that some 20 people, including children, were also injured. Accordingly, Monday has been declared a day of mourning, and Russia's foreign ministry has denounced the strikes, describing them as acts of terrorism. Ukraine, for its part, has yet to formally respond to the latest developments. South Korea's presidential office has cast doubt on North Korea's claim of having tested yet again with success a nuclear-capable underwater attack drone last Friday. Speaking to members of the media, an official at the top office said the claim is unlikely based on South Korea's current analysis, that is, and also given the lack of tangible evidence. Moreover, if an underwater test had indeed been conducted, it is believed that North Korea would have tested a type of torpedo and not a nuclear propulsion system. North Korea's initial claims of success regarding its HALE 523 nuclear-capable underwater attack drone were made in March last year. Relevant authorities here say their monitoring of Pyongyang's hostile activities continues and that they possess, quote, overwhelming capability to firmly respond to any provocation. Meanwhile, on the latest regarding the U.S. presidential race slated for November this year, Republican candidate Ron DeSantis has stepped down and is supporting former President Donald Trump's campaign. Our An Sang-jin reports.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was once viewed as the most likely to challenge former President Donald Trump for the Republican candidacy in the 2024 presidential race. But on Sunday, the 45-year-old contender made a relatively early exit from the primaries. DeSantis posted a video on social media site X where he endorsed former President Donald Trump as the Republican presidential candidate. Saying that he and the former president had some disagreements, he called Trump superior to incumbent President Joe Biden, adding that it was clear that, quote, a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance.
Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance.
DeSantis entered the 2024 presidential contest with major advantages in his quest to take on Trump, with early primary polls suggesting he would be a top challenger to Trump. But his support had been declining for several months due to a flawed campaign strategy, his seeming lack of ease with voters on the campaign trail, and Trump's so far unshakable iron hold on much of the party's base. Most recent polls showed 70% of Republicans view the former president favorably, and with DeSantis getting single-figure projections from the New Hampshire primary, he said his victory was unlikely. New Hampshire will hold the first primary election of the 2024 election cycle on Tuesday, which, with DeSantis' withdrawal, now leaves former U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley as the only viable contender to Trump remaining in the Republican Party. The winner of the Republican nomination will take on President Joe Biden, the likely Democratic nominee, in the presidential election in November. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
In other news, Korea's automakers and battery companies are calling on the U.S. government for some leeway within the Inflation Reduction Act that bans the use of core minerals and components from a, quote, foreign entity of concern, which includes China. According to the U.S. Federal Register on Sunday, Hyundai Motor Group has underscored that the immediate suspension of such materials from countries like China is, quote, unrealistic. Hyundai has instead proposed a list of essential minerals and components to be used temporarily, regardless of origin, and a regulation that allows a 10% ceiling on the use of such materials. The Korean government has also requested for more realistic regulations that all businesses can abide by. Temperatures have tumbled well below 0 degrees Celsius here in the country, and weather forecasters say the mercury will remain in negative territory in the days ahead. Accordingly, authorities are calling for public caution while outdoors. Our Moon Hye-ryan reports.
Various regions around the country experienced snowfall on Monday morning, with temperatures in most areas plummeting below 0 degrees Celsius as Arctic winds of -40 degrees swept across the peninsula. The Korea Meteorological Administration issued a heavy snow advisory across several districts, from Gangwon-do province in the north to Jeju Island in the south. A heavy snow advisory is issued when 5 centimeters of snow or more is expected to accumulate over a period of 24 hours. The capital Seoul and areas of Gangwon-do province have also seen a cold wave advisory issued, with people advised to be careful when out and about, as falling snow could immediately turn to ice. Some areas in Gangwon-do province are under a cold wave warning with a feels-like temperature of -21 degrees Celsius. With the 2024 Winter Youth Olympic Games currently taking place in the region, the government already assigned several thousand personnel and almost 700 pieces of snow-clearing equipment to clear away snow over the weekend. As for Jeju, the weather agency has issued advisories for strong winds on top of heavy snow, with mountainous areas forecasted to have heavy snowfall of up to 20 centimeters and other regions to have strong winds. As of 6 a.m. on Monday, Hallasan Mountain recorded more than 11 centimeters of accumulated snow over the past 24 hours, leading to all trails being completely restricted. Travelers have been advised to keep an eye out on flight schedules in case of cancellations or delays. And residents are also being asked to be wary of collapsing infrastructure, such as vinyl greenhouses under the weight of snow. Most regions are expected to stay sub-zero throughout Monday, with the weather agency forecasting that the cold wave will last until Thursday, with the peak to be felt on Tuesday. Moon Hye-ryan, Arirang News.
In sports news, golfer Lydia Ko is back in the winner's circle as she claims after winning the LPGA Tour opener in Orlando this past weekend following a bleak 2023. Our Ising has the highlights.
At the LPGA Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions in Florida, Korean-born New Zealand golfer Lydia Ko ended her 14-month drought, winning the tournament with an overall score of 14 under par on Sunday. The 26-year-old, who held a two-shot lead going into the final day, fired a 2 under par 70 in her fourth round to end a long wait to add to her previous LPGA titles. Sunday's win also gave Ko her 20th LPGA title of her career and is the first since the CME Group Tour Championship in 2022. Sunday's win means that she's now just a win away from clinching a spot in the World Golf Hall of Fame. Another victory on the tour would mean Ko would reach the 27-point threshold necessary to be enshrined. A single point is given for each LPGA Tour title, with 2 points given for a major title and a point each for the Vare Trophy for having the best scoring average in a single season and being named the Rolex Player of the Year. With 20 LPGA titles, 2 major titles, 2 Vare trophies, she has 26 points so far. Aside from the 14-month drought, Ko has had an impressive career that includes her becoming the youngest male or female golfer to rank #1 in the world when she first reached #1 in the Women's World Golf Rankings on February 2, 2015, aged 17 years, 9 months, and 9 days old. In 2015, she became the youngest woman at age 18 years, 14 months, and 20 days to win a major championship when she won the Evian Championship. 이승재, Arirang News.
And staying with sports news, snow caused a number of changes in schedules for competitions at the Winter Youth Olympics in Gangwon-do province this past weekend. But the opening ceremony last Friday took place on time to much fanfare. Our Song Yujin was there.
The Winter Olympics have returned to Korea after 6 years. The 2024 Gangwon Winter Youth Olympic Games, the first of its kind to be held in Asia, kicked off in the country's eastern Gangwon-do province on Friday. The Youth Olympics, designed for athletes between the ages of 15 and 18, offers a chance to meet the next generation of sports stars despite its smaller scale compared to the Olympics. Some 9,000 spectators gathered at the Gangneung Oval for Friday's opening ceremony.
The opening ceremony seems to be a bit smaller than 2018, but I'm excited to see the athletes, the Olympic stars of the future.
Our whole family's here to support her, and lots of friends and family back home will be watching online. Go Maya! You're going to do great, win or lose. We're going to have a lot of fun, and don't forget to listen for us cheering.
The 90-minute ceremony featuring K-pop stars, dance, Korean traditional music, laser art, and more was also broadcast simultaneously at the Pyeongchang Dome in Pyeongchang-gun County. The highlight was the lighting of the Olympic cauldron. A few minutes after the last torchbearer, Korean freestyle skier Lee Jung-min ignited the cauldron inside the oval, the digital cauldron outside also lit up. Gangwon 2024 is the first Olympics to introduce a digital cauldron. Throughout the Games, 1,802 athletes from 78 national Olympic committees will compete in 15 disciplines across 7 sports. The number changed when Albania's only participating athlete, an alpine skier, withdrew due to health issues. Still, it's a record number of athletes for the Winter Youth Olympics, making the Gangwon Games the biggest yet. The competitions will take place mostly at venues used during the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. As for Team Korea, 102 athletes are participating, the most among all NOCs. The country expects strong performances in short-track speed skating, figure skating, half-pipe snowboarding, and bobsleigh. So with the opening ceremony, Gangwon 2024 starts its 14-day journey. The 4th Winter Youth Olympic Games will run until February 1st. 송유진, Arirang News, Gangneung.
Big businesses here in Korea hired a record number of new workers last year. According to Statistics Korea on this Monday, fresh employment by companies with over 300 employees hit well over 3 million for the first time since data collection began in the year 2004. Also, 1 out of every 10 new jobs last year were at major corporations, which have reportedly been expanding their workforce since the year 2019. In contrast, small businesses noted their lowest level of job additions last year. Passengers flying Asiana Airlines from Gimpo International Airport starting today will be asked to step on the scale. Asiana says the measure seeks to assess the standard passenger weight as part of broader safety precautions and will last until the end of January. Passengers will be weighed fully dressed with their carry-on luggage at the departure gate. They can also choose to refuse to be weighed. Airlines here are required by law to update their assessment of the weight of their passengers and their carry-on luggage at least every 5 years. And we are inching closer to an era of urban air mobility here in Korea as test flights are scheduled to take off in the greater metropolitan region starting this summer. Our Chung Won-ju has details.
The UAM named OPAV, developed with technology by the Korea Aerospace Research Institute, has successfully completed a test flight. Until now, UAM test flights have taken place in non-urban areas, such as the reclaimed land in Gohung, Jeollanam-do province. However, starting this year, test flights will also be conducted in metropolitan areas. From August, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport will begin the second stage of the demonstration plan of connecting suburban and urban areas in the capital region, starting near the Ara waterway in Incheon's Gaeang district. By 2025, the testing stage will expand to skies over the Han River, connecting Yeouido, Kintaeksin Goyang and Gimpo Airport, and further linking Jamsil and Suseok via Tancheon.
The essence of urban air transportation is to bring air traffic, which used to be for long-distance travel, into our daily lives in the city and make it more convenient to move around.
This year, UAMs ambitiously developed by South Korean corporate consortia will also take to the skies for refinement. South Korea has entered a competition for demonstration projects with other major countries such as the United States, France, and the United Kingdom. Not only the UAMs, but also all the services necessary for actual operations such as vertiports and traffic management are now being looked into. Following this, the Korea Augmentation Satellite System, or KAS, which reduces location error significantly compared to GPS signals, is expected to contribute to achieving the goal of UAM commercialization in 2026. Chung Won-ju, Arirang News.
Also, researchers here have devised a way to diagnose depression by analyzing a mobile user's text messages and phone conversations. Our Yoon-jin explains.
In 2022, the number of people in South Korea who have visited a clinic for depression surpassed 1 million. The cumulative number was greater among the younger generations, with some 346,000 people in their 20s and 30s. Early detection is key to fighting depression, but most people suffering from the disease don't recognize it. And due to social norms, young people are not encouraged to have mental health check tests that would help detect depression in its early stages. But now a new AI function has been developed that can analyze whether a person needs psychiatric treatment. When the AI function is installed onto a smartphone, it automatically analyzes the person's language usage patterns, both verbal and text. The AI diagnosis takes 2 weeks to a month, during which the AI has a mental health diagnostic pattern that processes the user's keyboard input data and real-time voice data. A very big advantage of this function is that personal information is protected. The AI information is not transmitted to a central server and is processed independently on the individual smartphone.
The analysis function of the AI is based on learned data from patients suffering from depression. We've used a federated learning technique which secures the user's data from leaving the individual's phone.
The research team added that according to language pattern data collected, cues related to mental health analysis were more available when talking to friends and family in the evenings than with coworkers during the day. Also, in order to help the patients get early treatment, the depression detecting technology is being applied to an in-phone application. Yoon-jin, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. In India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to inaugurate a new Hindu temple in northern India on Monday, built on a site where rioters destroyed a Muslim mosque over 30 years ago. The plan for the $217 million temple is to transform the city of Ayodhya into a religious hub for Hinduism. The temple, however, is not without controversy, having been built on a site of a 16th century mosque which was destroyed during a riot by Hindu nationalist mobs in 1992, which spread across the country and resulted in the deaths of 2,000, mostly Muslim people. In 2019, India's Supreme Court gave permission for the Hindu temple to be built against heavy criticism by Muslim groups. Security will be tight for the inauguration, with tens of thousands from various forces, including the police and military, on duty. In the Philippines, floods and landslides triggered by recent heavy rainfall in the southern part of the country have left more than a dozen dead and affected more than 490,000 people, the country's civil defense said on Sunday. According to the country's civil defense office, 13 people were killed in landslides in the Davao region. The Davao del Norte province is among the regions to have declared a state of disaster. Reports say the recent heavy rain has resulted in agricultural losses of over $1 million. In winter sports news, Canadians claimed victory in both the men's and women's ski cross World Cup. 25-year-old Reese Howden and 29-year-old Hannah Schmidt both took home gold in Alberta, Canada on Saturday. It is the first time in 8 years that Canada has topped both the men's and women's podiums in the same World Cup. The competition, held at Canada's Nakiska ski resort, saw the hosts secure half of the 6 podium positions available. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. A mid-winter cold snap is in full swing with a cold wave advisory in place for most of the upper parts of the country. Highs in Seoul remain below freezing mark with chilly winds all day today. West coast regions around the Jeollado provinces will see heavier snowfall with up to 20 centimeters in the forecast until Tuesday, with a heavy snow advisory in place, as well as parts of Hwangseong and Pyeongchang in Gangwon-do from the weekend snow. Athletes taking part in the youth games in Pyeongchang need to brace for the biting cold as well. Highs in Pyeongchang only get up to minus 12 degrees Celsius this afternoon. In fact, upper regions will have highs below freezing all day, so please bundle up tight. And beware after spending some time outdoors. If you don't feel yourself, have trouble walking, or have confusion even after going into a warmer place, that's when you need to get to a hospital right away. Stay alert against freezing temperatures this week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions. And those are the headlines at this hour here in Korea. Thank you for watching, and do stay with us for our panel session coming up right after this break.